The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Lord, be on my mind, be on my lips, and in our hearts. Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary, who sat beside the Lord at his feet listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to Jesus and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." The Gospel of the Lord. Okay, I asked this last week, is this a familiar story? Do you love it, or does it challenge you? Do you feel for Martha, or do you relate to Mary? So, I'm going to be Mary this week. I'm going on vacation Sunday night, so I didn't work hard this week like Martha. So, the homily will be just a series of stories. I've told it before, this one, it's a made-up story, but I love it. There was a busy executive from New York in the finance market, CEO of a mega corporation, who took a little time off for vacation, went to a little fishing village in Mexico, and he would sit out, and every day he'd see a fisherman get up around 10 o'clock, go fishing till about noon, come home with a few fish, and take them to the market and sell them. And so one day he got talking to the fisherman, and he said, "Why do you only fish for a couple hours all by yourself? You could do so much better. You could hire another boat and hire some crews, and then they would catch you more fish, and you could sell more and make more money." Fisherman said, "Oh, yeah? And then what?" Well, then you could sell more to the cannery and make more money and buy more crews." And he said, "Oh, yeah? And then what?" Well, then you could buy the company and buy the cannery, and then you could go international. You could make all sorts of more money. Go on the stock exchange. And the fisherman said, "Yeah, and then what?" And then the executive said, "Well, then you could retire and go to a little fishing village and just fish for a couple hours a day." Another story. This one's a true story, I think. I read it in a book. We're going to read it in a book from an author. He's a neurosurgeon. Grew up atheist and became a neurosurgeon to figure out what the human body and the mind is all about and to figure out how it really works. The more over the years that he had experiences doing surgery, too many things he could not explain, like people with big parts of their brains missing that shouldn't be functional but are functional. And he got to wonder if there isn't more to life than what we could really understand with science. One day, he had a child. The child was born with what he thought was a defect, and he realized or believed he was going to be deprived of a loving relationship with his son. And that was hard for him to accept. And so he was at a Catholic hospital visiting a patient, and at the end of that visit, he walked by the chapel. He decided to go inside, and he got down on his knees, and he said to God, "God, I'm not one to normally pray, but I'm fearful that my son has a defect that will prevent me from having a loving relationship with him like I long for. And I can't take that, so please cure him." And he said, and at that moment he heard a voice, and the voice said, "That's what you're doing to me." And he recognized that loving relationship that he loved and longed for his child was not something that he was returning to God, who longed for that loving relationship. And so he said, God, I will respond to you and follow you and have that loving relationship with you. Please cure my son. He went home, his son was cured, lived a perfectly normal life. Sounds extraordinary, doesn't it? But I actually, hearing that story reminded me in my life of a time that a very similar thing happened. And I can't tell you all the details because it's a PG-rated environment here. But with a coworker a long time ago who was having marital problems and was lonely and sharing her sorrows, and we were in, by chance, a very romantic situation that for most guys could have turned out sinful. But for me, I just never had that kind of luck. It turned into a God moment. But she was sharing how her husband was having an affair and would flaunt it in front of her how much he prepared for her that he was going to see. And she said to me, here is a man I'm in love with and I would die for, but he doesn't pay any attention to me. It's a sad story, right? But at that moment, God spoke to me through her words, said, I did die for you, and you don't even think about me. This is when I was having a life much like Martha and not like Mary. It set me on a different path where I felt and pursued and made the decision to have a closer relationship with Jesus that changed my life. She later reconciled with her husband, and they're doing fine, at least the last I heard, because I left that way of life. Another member of our parish, during our Follow Christ experience, we're trying to encourage people to preach with or pray with the Gospels. This particular passage, as she was meditating upon it, she experienced Jesus look her in the eyes, take her by the hands when she was feeling like Martha. And Jesus called her by name. And she had a powerful experience of God's love that has changed her life and made her focus more on the Lord. The gospel passage is very simple, but very challenging, isn't it? In this world today, more and more, we are like Martha. Sociologists write about it all the time, educators. We are more and more stressed out, more and more worried and anxious about many things, more and more feeling a victim, that we're slaves to the conditions of this life that we have no control over. But Jesus is saying we really do. Everything we do is a choice. And we can choose to have a deeper relationship with Jesus. It may make some hard decisions that we have to put some things aside, but we can do that. And the benefits will change our life for the better. And I know we all have many responsibilities, and when I talk this way to people, people say, Father, you don't understand. I have to go to work, and you don't have to go to work. That's true. But even our work we aren't victims, we aren't slaves. We can choose to do that. And if it's a difficult job that we don't necessarily like, we can choose to do it for the Lord. And while we're doing it, we can do it more like Mary and less like Martha. We don't have to have that resentment that we're a victim. Or, I like to say, Martha could have been in their kitchen listening to Jesus talk to Mary and still benefiting from that and taking joy that her work was allowing that great conversation to happen. Another thing that I think this passage teaches us, how many times do we complain to Jesus about other people? Like Martha was. Lord, change this person. Maybe the prayer needs to be, Lord, help me to accept this situation. Or know what it is I can do to make a decision to change it. But if not, to learn to accept it. You know, that's serenity prayer. And so today's passage is challenging. There is only one thing in life that matters in the end. And that is, do we have a loving, intimate relationship with Jesus Christ? Because if we do, all other things fall into place. Yes, we might still work hard, but we won't do it with that same anxiety or stress. Jesus says, come to me, all who labor and are burdened. My yoke is easy, my burden light. He does make this life and the many responsibilities we have to do lighter. If we are focused on Him first, everything else falls into place. And all the many things we do in this life, most of them don't last or don't matter in the end, do they? I remember before I became a priest, while I was an engineer and I took 6 months off work, sabbatical, the only one I've had. That's what they have them as priests, but I don't have them anymore. I wrote an autobiography of my life, an exercise someone suggested. 70-page autobiography. I was still young at that time. But of that 70-page, then it said, go back now and underline or highlight the things that were really significant to you, and they gave you meaning and purpose. I was only able to highlight 2 or 3 sentences. Like 1% of my life was meaningful. Many of us are like that. We need to make the choices to do more of the things that really matter in God's eyes, and that will serve God and deepen our relationship with Jesus. Because in the end, only that lasts. And if we have chosen to do that now, to have that relationship with Jesus, nothing will take that from us, not even death.